544. News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to put your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Ben Reichley.
Greetings and welcome on board the WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. It is entitled On the Mark. It is a Monday, the very last day of June. Sunset times are still at their latest times of the summer, 8:43 p.m. Sunrise times, we're already losing 30 seconds a day on the sunrise, so catch it while you can, because days are actually getting shorter. Today is about 8 seconds shorter than yesterday, so we are going to be enjoying Halloween very shortly. It's right around the corner. Good morning to everyone. On the Mark is now on the radio. It is June 29th, 2014. I am Mark Lawrence. Ben Reichley is across from me. The greatest producer the world has ever known. The man who had to actually launch his many awards into space via SpaceX capsule just to get rid of them and put them in very organized orbital storage is back from a vacation. Kevin is like the perfect guy now. He's rested, he's relaxed, he's tan, he's fit. He's even more perfect than before.
Yeah, his nickname's 90PX.
90. Oh, okay, that's the exercise
Yeah,
program.
he must be doing it, or T25,
or Evan Health Center, or whatever it happens to be.
Eating right and feeling good.
Right, so he's looking good.
He's half the man he used to be in January.
That's right, so he's doing pretty good. Kevin, are you relaxed and happy? And I'm not going to ask you if you're glad to be back, because I don't want you to be dishonest. So, welcome back. Oh, his mic is busted. We busted his mic while he was gone. I guess we should have maybe tested it before.
I thought you hit it and didn't tell him.
Hit the micro. No, it's there, but he's always, that button has always been a little sticky, and now it's not working at all. So we'll let him. If anybody can get that to work in the hours ahead, that is him. We'll have to bring him in here. We'll just interview him like the rest of the poor guests that come through from time to time.
So. Good weekend.
I had a wonderful weekend. Just relaxed a little bit. Worked on Saturday and Sunday. Was out in Richfield yesterday, home of no Verizon service.
Yes, there is when I say delay, there is a drop right at the, I believe right at the Juniata-Snyder County line.
Okay.
But interesting, Richfield, you enter Snyder County, you're in Juniata County, and when you leave, you're going back into Snyder County.
Is that how that works?
It's just a little.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's just the corner of Juniata.
Yeah, it's just a corner, but interesting and a great festival. I believe in August, or is it July? Dutch Days out in Richfield.
Yes,
is it July?
Next month.
Yeah, it's a real unique heritage festival out there.
Right. So that's what I did. How about your weekend?
I saw a lot of swimming on Saturday. If you go to a swim meet, those that have daughters or sons that swim at the 8th grade or 8-year-old to 12-year-old levels, pretty interesting. You see the minis swimming, and you see some of the minis that have grown up over the years swim. So I spent the day on Saturday, beautiful Danville. Interesting place. I saw a sign that said "Home of Kevin Herr." I don't know which street it was on, but
a sign pointed up the street.
He might have put it up himself.
Kevin, yeah, they do that to ease congestion in the alleys, because a lot of people take the wrong street and then have to turn around in the alley. So yeah you got that. So.
But no, good weekend, and weather a little humid. Are we having a little late July, August weather a month early?
I guess so. Yeah, we're average high temperature in July is 84, and we started it over the weekend, so we had nice weather. All right, so all good. Kevin's in the process of rebuilding his microphone he got out his Swiss Army knife, and he's taking that apart, so he'll get that fixed in the hours ahead. But we're very glad that he's back. He has done what he always has done, and that is to start the webcam. And the webcam is up and running. He has got a crystal clear zoomed-in image. He put some nice cool lights in here, so we got rid of the tungsten burning overhead gas discharged coal-fired toxic planet warming lights. Those are gone. All right, so now we have cool fluorescents that they produce daylight. In fact, someone walked by the window and said, oh, did they add a window to the studio here? We do not have a window in this particular studio. But they went by, they saw the daylight shining out the window and said, wow, did you add a window? And then they looked in and saw it was Kevin's new lights that he hung in the studio. So those are turned up, and the webcam is running. So we invite you to check that out. It has a great audio stream, too. The webcam is cooking right now. And Groninger Insurance Agency is located at Front and Duke Streets, Northumberland. They're open Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5, and Friday, 9 to 4:30. At Groninger Insurance, they keep asking that question, do you know if your insurance is at the right price? And the answer is, well, find out. Let Groninger give you a second opinion on your insurance, whether it's auto, home, or business insurance, no matter what it is. And they have a free, no-obligation second opinion available to you, especially if you're starting to think about life insurance. So many types of life insurance out there, and some can really be helpful to the right family at the right time, and others not quite as helpful unless, of course, you're dead. And so enjoy the life insurance that can pay back and help out, and they can help you do that at GroningerInsurance.com. On the Marks, brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street, Sunbury, and routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. If variety is the spice of life, they got it spicy at the Sunbury Motor Company. They got Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln cars and trucks, but they also have dozens of vehicles that have been pre-owned and very carefully checked out and ready to go, and they got every brand there. If you absolutely positively love a Chevy truck, well, they have a used 2001 Chevy truck there. It might sound a little bit older than some of the trucks, but it's in fantastic garage kept shape, low mileage, and just barely into the five-figure range on that price, and they'll make a good deal with you. Sunbury Motor Company, sunburymotors.com. Everything I talk about at Sunbury Motors is available at sunburymotors.com main website. And the Lenape Solar email in basket is open. You can do as no one has done so far today, and that's send us an email. For the first time in a long time, there's nothing in the email in basket. So send us a note to on the mark at WKOK.com, and in many cases we do read your email on the radio. Lenape's at 140 South 2nd Street, Sunbury. Find them on the web at 286-1496, or you can call them up at lenapesolar.com, and they're the fastest growing solar company in the valley. They can take care of ductless heating systems for your home and cooling, heating and cooling systems. And they can take good care of your commercial business, make sure that you're not paying extra for lighting. Boy, wait till they see the upgrade here that Kevin did. They'll say, oh, there goes our audit that we were going to do in the Studio A. And they can also help you out, of course, with solar, thermal, or photovoltaic. They got the answer for you at LenapeSolar.com. We'll have news headlines at 9 o'clock this morning. No breaking news. The state budget is still pending. Our good state senator was busy yesterday, a rare Sunday session of the state legislature, trying to get a deadline done by the end of business today. So that is in the news. We can talk about that. Conestoga Wood Products and the Hobby Lobby are hoping for favorable decisions from the U.S. Supreme Court today. So that is going to be popping up as the hours progress. We should be hearing from them later today. We'll keep the Associated Press lined up, and hopefully, we'll have a business there. Sorry.
Mark, does that mean, by the way...
Hey, there he is.
Thanks for breaking everything while I was away.
Oh, what did I do? I didn't touch anything in that room.
We just hid it from you.
Oh, well, unfortunately for you, I was able to figure it out. My question is, if the state does not come up with a signed budget by the end of the day today, by midnight, does that automatically shut down the state parks for the holiday weekend, or is that something that happens a few days later?
No, there'll be a contingency, and as you saw in the Rendell administration, I believe they were, what was their average? 60 days to 90 days to get a budget almost every year.
Well, there was one year, though, that they didn't have a budget signed. There was no contingency in it, and the state parks had to close down for a few days, and it was right around the 4th.
I think that was after the deadline had passed to get a budget in place. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, right. Okay,
is
that's
the deadline.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. Yes, the state parks shut down. Yeah, I don't remember the precise circumstances that led to that. I remember it happening and why contingency plans did lead. But for some strange reason, it doesn't make that big of a difference when the state budget doesn't have money than it does on the federal level when there's a shutdown. So, yeah, good questions. Well, we'll put those to our state representative. They've promised to keep us informed this week as they get to crunch time, and when the new budget is agreed to, then to explain what it is. But the state park should be open this weekend.
It possibly happen this afternoon. Maybe not going to the 12 o'clock hour.
Well, I know there's a lot of folks that have holiday weekend plans, and part of it would be camping at a state park, and if you don't have the services available, that would stink.
Oh, yeah, that would be bad. Well, and plus some folks are probably already there hoping for a smooth
That
transition.
too, yeah.
So, yeah, good questions. We invite folks with informed answers on these. Under what circumstances is there a partial government shutdown in Pennsylvania? And then most times during the Rendell administration, you really couldn't tell if you weren't paying attention to the news. And people would get paid eventually, usually later, when they would have these kind of issues during the Rendell administration. 1-800-795-9565 is the open phone. Kevin probably has plans out of State Park, so he'll be in trouble if they can't go.
Actually, I don't this time.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't remember the shutdown on the state side, the federal side, of course, because it was.
It might have been a federal one now that you mention it.
But again, there was questions on why the federal shut down certain areas, and I believe they even shut down areas that sort of were outside their reach. I believe down in Washington. So. The politics goes on, and both parties can be looked at on the national side and on the state side, and we'll see what happens this afternoon. But the Supreme Court's got a big ruling last week in reference to the president and the overreaching they felt on some recess appointments. You're going to see the Supreme Court, and I believe this is the Supreme Court's last couple days in session, or today might be their last day in session before they take their summer recess.
I certainly haven't heard previews of anything other than today's being the last day of big announcements.
Yeah,
we're not waiting for anything else big. We had the recess appointments. Did we have a couple of 9-0 votes last week? The recess was one of them. There was another one too that just oh, come on, brain, work. Well, anyway, there was another one that came out last week that was 9-0 that, just painfully clear to the administration and or to whomever was on both sides of it that the Constitution got overstepped by some of these. Well, and I really agree with the decision that relates, even though it was 9-0, so it's obvious the Constitution and both sides of the Supreme Court are there. I really agree with that because I think that the letter of the law is important. You want to do these appointments, and I certainly understand that the gridlock and the what do they call it when either the Democrats or the Republicans impede things and sort of filibuster and keep things blocked. But you want people to pay attention, and of course, when you can go to the original writing of the Constitution to comply with these kinds of not amendments, but go with really what the Founding Fathers specifically said. And then I think that's a rare opportunity, and you should do so.
Well, 9-0 says something.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's pretty blatant, and it goes back to we're in the gray area, and Kevin might remember this from a sports standpoint, but in politics and in society today, it seems like we're into the gray area, and which way can we put the gray area to benefit whichever group you're within or how you want to promote. But I think Nick Faldo said it best a couple years ago, and it was in reference to a golf match which Tiger Woods, prominent golfer that he is, was at the Masters, and there was some rules that he interpreted a little bit different. I believe it was on a Friday of the Masters, which is a 4-day event, and the rules of golf are pretty cut and dry. There's usually very, very, 99% it is this, 1% you can maybe interpret. And Woods he interpreted the rules one way and probably got some advantage in regards to a shot that went in the water that he dropped, but he didn't drop properly. But he got some advantage because of his statue in the game of golf and went on and played. Now, a lot of golfers would disqualify themselves and walk away and be the honorable
sort of be the
sportsman. And again, and Nick Faldo made a statement, and this was on Saturday, and he says, in my life of golf, what was black and white has now become gray. So the interpretation of the rules. So we see in politics now, which you say the Democrats or Republicans impede each other, but now in the gray area, that seems to be where people are going to say, where can I maneuver in the gray area to get my party ahead or to get my cause ahead? And that has sort of become maybe where we're living at, both socially and of course, politically.
Well, look at the Patriot Act itself. Some of it being overturned occasionally by the Supreme Court, a few elements being upheld, most of it going unchallenged. And almost everybody agrees that now the NSA is participating in overreach to a certain extent. Now, to what extent, that's where the disagreement might fall. But people seem to agree, but none of it is affecting it. You know, it continues if, you know, the NSA continues to reach more and more and more into our lives, following our snail mail and email and cell phone records and landline record. Well, every you know, basically every transaction, cable TV records, if you rent something on the satellite or cable television.
Here's a point. Infrastructure, waterworks, sewer, lighting, gas,
all computer control.
They're computer control, and you meter this for your house has a water meter, and you meter that for use of your water and how much you get billed with that. Sewage, you know, to a degree, you know, you get charged. But now with smart meters, which the technology is now allowing people to understand if there's a water break, you can say, okay, Lawrence's house is they don't take this much water at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They must have a break. They call you, you go to your house, your basement's flooded, works out. However, now people say, hold it, I don't need the government to know how much water, how much electricity, how much natural gas I'm using or not using. And now is that is that more Big Brother? Is that 1984 coming back? And is it also technology moving society forward, some ways positive, maybe some ways not as much?
Some real quick research. Back in 2007, it was 7 years ago, that there was a partial shutdown of state government services that did require campers especially to vacate cabins and camping spots in state parks over the July 4th holiday weekend.
And that was from the state side?
Correct.
And that's because no sort of interim patchwork
budget. There wasn't anything. Yeah, there were other state workers. There were several thousand state workers that were actually furloughed at that point.
Right. Well, it sounds like they're pretty close to coming up with an agreeable budget, whether or not liquor gets privatized or not. And the severance tax doesn't appear to be part of this conversation at the moment. So we'll see if that continues.
Lottery, turnpike, you know, all that stuff.
These
probably going to be on the table. Next year will be an interesting budget time, but next year is going to be an interesting budget time for most states. And part of the problem with the states budgeting is they don't know where the federal government's going to be and what subsidies come back from the federal government or not. Yeah, interesting times for not only states, but as we saw over the weekend, article about school districts, which was talked about here with Representative Keller, I believe, 2 weeks ago? And it came out and talked about the rate of inflation and the rates of schools. And one of the things that some of the school districts are really having a problem with is their overhead costs, particularly with pensions, and how they're going to be able to adapt to that in the future. And we see that on the state side, but we don't see that just in Pennsylvania. We're seeing that all over the country.
Right, 1-800-795-9565. Talking about dollars and cents, some just a little bit on the national level, but mostly at the local level, state level, and what it relates to school boards. One of the things Fred Keller said is that districts just overspend, you know, without keeping your spending in check. And, of course, most of that is payroll, so without keeping your payroll spending in check, that's what makes the tax increases. That state spending has increased steadily, even after the slight dip down because of the, what do they call it, the stimulus money that ran out. After that, through the last year of the Rendell administration and on into the Corbett years, the state spending continued to increase, so go up. So there is precedent for ongoing increases in spending. I think a modest increase in spending is part of the budget as well that's being considered in Harrisburg. You're listening to On the Mark. We'd love you to set us off in the right direction. 1-800-795-9565. We're talking budgets, being stuck in Washington, D.C. Oh, I'm sorry. In this case, we're talking about the vortex of Harrisburg, being stuck in Harrisburg. 1-800-795-9565. Talking budget. Do you think this compromised budget that does not have liquor store privatization in it has a lot lot of one-time budget transfers that irritates Jake Corman. If you hear his remarks about it earlier in the news today, he's not interested in raising taxes, but doesn't like all these, he calls them gimmicks, so we can talk about that. 1-800-795-9565 is the Groninger Insurance toll-free line. Lenape Solar email in basket, populated by messages that were sent to onthemark@WKOK.com. And our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Penn State football players arrive this weekend for summer session. Yes, the freshmen are finally on campus. We'll talk about Penn State football all next week right here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Welcome back to WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. Thanks so much for joining us. 1-800-795-9565. We're talking about budget impasse in Harrisburg. What taxes could go up, what will stay the same. No severance taxes on the table at the moment in Harrisburg. It was talked about. Even Jake Corman said it might be an okay. Jake Corman didn't call it a gimmick. Jay Costa did, right? Mr. Costa. He's a Democrat.
Allegheny County.
All right, and he's a Democratic leader on the budget, so I'm glad to correct that. We have two emails pending as it relates to the budget. One is called Quagmire. We read them in the order in which they arose, which would put Quagmire first from Than. It says, I think that the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on recess appointments will affect both Republican and Democratic presidents. Reagan made over 230. George W. Bush about 131 recess appointments, and President Obama trails with somewhere about 50 so far.
Well, this isn't about recess appointments per se. It's about when you appoint people, and the problem with the Obama administration is they appointed people when the Senate technically wasn't in recess. So that was more the issue than recess appointments.
Technically were in session.
They were not in session.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't recessed, and the appointments were made, and they were made because they couldn't get their people through. But other presidents, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton down the Democratic side, Republicans, got their folks through or compromised and got people into those positions. The Obama administration is, well, it's my way or I have to go do something else. And it's interesting. The history of this administration is I need to play by my rules with my ball, and it's almost like the soccer match. At the end of 90 minutes, everyone looks around, is the official going to put how much time or any on? And, that official makes the rules.
When did Republicans start this process of not recessing, staying in session with a core group of senators? When did that begin?
Well, I think that's been going on since the Senate's been in session.
Oh, okay, so that's an ongoing.
I don't think
that's an ongoing trick. Okay, good.
I don't think it so much as a trick. I think it's part of the parliamentary procedures of the Senate.
Right, but I know that they do it so that they can prevent recess appointments.
And that's done by both sides, yeah.
Right, they do it to each other. Cindy, thank you so much for calling in. We're talking about the state budget. I know that you follow this closely, so we would love your informed remark today.
Oh, thank you so much. First of all, the Democrats, with Jim Watt, he sat down there running the Senate through the Christmas holidays. He was the senator from Virginia, I believe it was. So the Democrats have done this, hold the door open so you can't make recess appointments against Bush. And I was a Democrat at the time, and that was fine with me. Let's all remember that under our beloved former Governor Rendell, in his early years, he wanted more funding for schools, so he withheld all payment to schools until December. in order to pressure the Republicans to increase the funding. And then, in 2 back-to-back years, he conducted even more hostage negotiations, one year by not paying the state employees but expecting them to show up to work. And remember the famous, now infamous quote, they should put a statue to him on their mantle because
they should put a statue of me up on their mantle.
There you go, because he got them loans at a bank. And then the year that they withheld payment from all the social agencies until October because they didn't get the budget done on time. And in fact, that was when the appropriations chair for the Democrats left the state for 3 weeks in the throes of that crisis. I don't know how anybody has any faith in this government. It's just really run off the rails. But I looked over the current proposal from the House Republicans. Now, the governor put out a proposal. I think that's pretty much hit the circular file. The House Republicans have come up with a plan that spends, I think, a little less or exactly the same amount of money as this year.
A little less.
Thank you very much, Ben. Most notable in looking through it is there's a couple upticks, and there's some downticks. Some agencies got less money, but remarkably, not one line of the money that goes to the General Assembly, not one, not to the House, not to the Senate, none of it. Not one cut at all. Now, last year they gave themselves a 1.5% increase in spending, and this year they proposed to level fund themselves. Now, a couple years ago, they had over $250 million in reserve, or my favorite word, slush fund. And now that's fallen down to about $150, largely because they took that money and used it to make up the missing accountability block grants funds without raising taxes. So,
that's the federal money that doesn't come into the state.
No, the accountability block grant money is state money that was given, and you can only use it for 3 things. Oh, there that chime is again. That Kevin, he does this to me.
Oh, yeah, it's Kevin. That's what we call time started. Okay, thank you so much, Cindy. You're welcome to call back. Finish the thoughts. We're deep into the state budget. Well, I think we should continue this conversation. This has to be a brought-up topic. One of the stories in the upcoming headlines involves the state budget, so we'll read that aloud at the appropriate time. You're listening to News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury. On the Mark is on the air, 9 a.m. We'll be back after CBS News with open phones. Good morning, everyone.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. When the Supreme Court meets an hour from now to close out its current term, it's expected to rule on a case involving rights in conflict. Can the government force businesses to give workers coverage for contraception and abortion? A minister was in the crowd that formed outside the court early this morning.
The decision they make today is going to determine whether they allow us to be Christians at work, at home.
Others see it differently.
It's also very important to see the freedom of not just religion, but also your health rights and other kind of rights that you need.
It's important in terms of women's rights.
CBS News senior legal analyst Andrew Cohen looks at the issue.
The companies argue they have a First Amendment right not to provide contraception coverage and that no statute, not even the Affordable Care Act, can trump that constitutional right. The government says that companies can't pick and choose which regulations they want to follow based upon religious beliefs, that there would be no end to the protests and no chance for government to function.
West Point graduate and former Procter & Gamble CEO Robert McDonald is the president's choice to clean up the mess at VA hospitals. CBS News senior White House correspondent Bill Plant.
When McDonald headed Procter & Gamble, he was responsible ultimately for customer service on 200 brands. What the White House wants is somebody who will bring customer service to the Veterans Administration. Customer service is something they have been sorely lacking in recent years.
Prescott, Arizona will pay tribute to the 19 Granite Mountain hotshots killed by a raging wildfire a year ago today. Live to CBS News correspondent Heather Bosch.
The names of the fallen firefighters will be read, bells will chime, and bagpipes will play Amazing Grace in downtown Prescott. Family members plan to gather at the city cemetery where many of the firefighters are buried, and all are remembered with a plaque. Julianne Ashcraft lost her husband.
I find that I have a lot more good days now than I have bad, but it's still really hard.
19 elite firefighters were overrun by flames while battling an Arizona wildfire.
More heavy rain is forecast today from the plains across the Midwest to the south. The deluge yesterday forced residents to evacuate a mobile home park in Whitehaven, Tennessee by boat.
I just couldn't believe it. It looked like a dam had broke.
The Sunni militants who've overrun parts of Syria and Iraq have declared an Islamic caliphate in the areas they control. CBS's Charlie D'Agata has the latest from Baghdad.
ISIS militants and Sunni insurgents now stake claim to about a third of Iraq, north and west of Baghdad. The Iraqi military has begun to push back, gaining ground in its biggest offensive yet.
A United jet flying from Chicago to Los Angeles last night had emergency chutes inflate without warning. Passenger Diane Mondini says it happened right next to the flight attendants.
And the whole back part of the plane where they sat was full of the chute.
No one was hurt. The plane landed safely in Wichita. S&P futures are down 0.5 point. This is CBS News.
Attention homeowners. I'm Jay Farner, president of Quicken Loans, and I have some important information for you regarding the U.S. government's Home Affordable Refinance Program, or HARP. We've told you about HARP in the past, and more than 3 million homeowners have already taken advantage of this money-saving program. But there are so many more of you who could be saving hundreds of dollars every month on your mortgage. And Quicken Loans is here to help you save your money. The home loan experts at Quicken Loans fully understand the HARP guidelines. If you weren't HARP eligible in the past, new guidelines could mean that now you are. Give us a call and we'll give you a Quicken Loans mortgage review. It's simple and easy. And for 4 years in a row now, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Call 800-QUICKEN. That's 800-QUICKEN. Or go to QuickenLoans.com for a mortgage experience that's engineered to amaze.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Payment example excludes taxes and insurance calls. For cost information, equal housing lender license in all 50 states, NMLS number 3030.
A compensation plan for the victims of accidents caused by defective ignition switches in GM cars will be announced an hour from now. CBS's Jeff Gilbert tells us how the process will unfold from there.
After the specifics are laid out, victims will need to choose whether to accept the compensation offered them or try their luck in court. GM CEO Mary Barra saying several times they want to do the right thing.
Our goal is to make sure everyone who was impacted by the ignition switch issue is appropriately compensated.
Attorney Ken Feinberg will have full control over who will be compensated and how much. Jeff Gilbert, CBS News, Detroit.
A Florida judge who allegedly punched a public defender during an altercation outside his courtroom returns to the bench today after taking a leave of absence. Judge John Murphy wrote a letter of apology to Brevard County residents for actions he said tarnished the reputation of the judiciary. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
I could either ignore it or face it. My child had trouble grasping math concepts. You don't want your kids to fail at math. You want them to have confidence and the skills to take them where their dreams are. Math Made Easy wants to make you an offer. They'll improve your student's grade by at least 1 full grade or your money back. Teachers can't slow the pace for each student. Math Made Easy can. For more than 20 years, Math Made Easy has been helping hundreds of thousands of students grasp challenging math concepts using a step-by-step approach. The affordable Math Made Easy programs help students visualize math concepts with engaging and dynamic lessons. Students learn at their own pace. Call 1-800-USA-MATH or visit mathmadeeasy.com. We offer a 30-day risk-free trial on all Math Made Easy programs. Why not use this summer to fill the gaps and get your student ready for the new school year? Turn frustration into achievement. Call 1-800-USA-MATH. 1-800-872-6284.
News Radio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Ben Reichley.
Greetings and welcome back to the WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. It is entitled On the Mark, last day of June. That's why we're talking about the state budget. We'll continue that conversation. We have 2 emails that relate to that general topic, so we will talk about that, but we do have an open phone session. We'll mention our sponsors in a moment, some news headlines, and we'll continue our conversation about the state budget and not really an impasse, just normal negotiations as we get close to the last minute of the state fiscal year. Our webcam is up up and running. Kevin makes it just tick just perfectly. We got a half a dozen viewers now, and we would just love more folks to tune in to the webcam. Kevin has improved the lighting as the weeks go on. He'll add more cameras and switching and more visual effects and keys that would explain which sponsors playing at the time. And of course, you already got crystal clear audio, and the image is sharp. So we invite you to check out the webcam at WKOK.com. On the Mark brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street, Sunbury, and routes 11 and 15 Hummels Wharf. Find out tons more about them at sunburymotors.com. On that special website, you can download, whether you need a new vehicle or not, you can click on the Works Fuel Saver package, and you'll save a lot of money taking your vehicle in, make sure all your fluids are okay, your tires are properly inflated, they'll replace tires, fill them with nitrogen, make sure that the belts are good, the filters are good, and the cabin air filter. You would forget about that if you were a shade tree mechanic, but they'll make sure that that's working great, and then you'll be all set for summer and any summer trips that you got planned now that summer is officially underway. SunburyMotors.com is the place that you can check that out. Oh, and if you need a new vehicle, they got those. And Atlantic Solar email in basket is open. Email on the market at WKOK.com. And as we are about to do for some folks who sent us a note, we'll read them on the radio. Atlantic Solar is 140 South 2nd Street in Sunbury. The three foci are HVAC, the ductless systems that would give you ultra-efficient cooling and heating for your home, the commercial lighting audits, and going solar, whether it's solar or solar thermal or photovoltaic. They can help you get squared away with helping you harness the power of the sun for a brighter tomorrow. LenapeSolar.com. And the Groninger Insurance Agency now owns the Shamrock Insurance Agency from Sunbury, and that puts even more tools in the tool belt. The Groninger boys, Jim, John, Paul, and Mel, would just love to help you out. Making sure that your insurance needs are met and your expectations are exceeded. Groningerinsurance.com is their main website. They would love to talk to you. News headlines. As you heard from CBS, the U.S. Supreme Court any minute expected to release its ruling on whether Hobby Lobby and Conestoga Wood Products and other for-profit companies have religious rights, a case challenging President Barack Obama's health overhaul and its guarantee of birth control for employees in preventative health care plans that are funded by companies. The family-owned companies, including Conestoga Wood Products, owned by a Mennonite family, say that that type of contraception that can lead to what they call abortion is included in the comprehensive health care plans, and they find that unconstitutional, saying that companies do have religious rights as a whole and individually. So look for that ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court today as it relates to Conestoga, hundreds of employees in Pennsylvania. A woman wounded at the Bloomsburg gun show over the weekend says she doesn't blame the vendor and can't wait to get back to the next gun show. She was accidentally shot in the leg while a vendor was demonstrating a concealed carry holster. 25-year-old Krista Gearhart told the Press Enterprise that her heart goes out to the vendor for what she calls a terrible accident. Police in Columbia County say Gearhart was shot in the right thigh Saturday at the Eagle Arms Gun Show at the Bloomsburg Fairgrounds. She was treated at Geisinger and released. Prosecutors are determining if charges will be filed. She says it's ironic to get shot at a gun show, particularly where safety is emphasized throughout. She says there's another gun show in Bloomsburg coming up, and she will go to that one too at that time. State lawmakers are gone for the night after an unusual weekend session at the Capitol on Saturday and Sunday as Republicans tried to advance an approximately $29.1 billion spending plan for the new fiscal year that's nearly here. The preliminary Senate committee vote Sunday night set up floor votes on budget legislation today, the last day of the fiscal year. The Republican-crafted budget plan calls for $950 million more in spending, primarily for public schools, public employee pensions, health care for the poor, and social safety net programs. It does not raise taxes and instead cuts business taxes. Democrats' opponents saying it doesn't do enough for schools. They also say it's flimsily built on more than $2 billion in one-time items, including postponing bills, raiding off-budget programs, and draining reserves to help paper over a massive shortfall in tax collections. And finally, you'll be able to see a lot more of Tom Corbett this summer. He says he's going to soon put up, or his campaign says they'll soon put up another round of television ads with about 4 months to go before the general election. The Republican incumbent discussed his race against Democrat Tom Wolf in an interview with the Associated Press. He called his opponent a totally unproven commodity, unquote, and defended his own record since taking office in early 2011, saying jobs are the hallmark of the Corbett administration. And those are the news headlines. We flip back to open phones. We invite you to call the Groninger Insurance toll-free line. We're talking about the state budget. 1-800-795-9565. That's 1-800-795-9565. We have 2 emails pending, and we would just love to read those on the radio, and we will do so in one split second. But the emails have a rove at the Groninger the Lenape Solar email in basket. The Lenape Solar email in basket. You simply email on the market at WKOK.com. And most recent email, we always read them in the order in which they get here. So, Robert says the Pennsylvania Senate is controlled by the Republicans, the Pennsylvania House is controlled by Republicans, and the Pennsylvania governor is a Republican. How are the Republicans supposed to blame this budget impasse on Democrats, says Robert.
Don't believe
I'm sure it is
anybody. Who's blaming who's blaming who? I think right now it's the negotiations, and I think you said it. It's not an impasse. Probably not an impasse until tomorrow.
And Democrats are really just an asterisk in this. I don't think anybody's calling them anything. They're invited to sit in the back row and watch, but they really don't have too much impact on the discussions. Yeah, so this is not an impasse. It would be very unlikely if they would go past midnight without a budget, I would think. Let's see. Melissa sends a note, says, I love listening to small government Republicans complain about the potential lack of government services such as state parks if the state government were to shut down, says Melissa.
I think probably directed towards Kevin in his comments, but again, I don't think it's the size of government, large, small, whatever you want to put it to that. It's how efficient is government. And one of the services government does is state parks, and the 4th of July weekend is a big park weekend. But what's the efficiency of government?
Well,
not the size.
And state parks are something the government should do and does do well. You know, so that's important.
Going back to Teddy Roosevelt with the making national parks, but again, it's not the size of government, it's the efficiency of government.
I just think it's sad anytime you can't find a compromise on the budget or a compromise on anything, and it has to go past the deadline date just to do it.
Right.
So I don't care if it's a Republican, Democrat, Independent.
Well, at least in the Corbett administration, there's been budgets that have beat the deadline. I think we remember in the Rendell administration, there was budgets that didn't come close, and then I think you look at Schweiker and Ridge, you had a combination of some things there. It's what's the attitude in the House and the Senate, and who's in the governor's office, and when do they really start? And at some point, if there's hot issues, it gets down to brass tacks, and that's usually the last week or last days or last hours. And then you see compromise, potentially, more likely in the 11th hour, or like I said, the last days, than you do months beforehand. But you would hope they could have this done in, let's say, before Memorial Day, not so much coming up to the 4th of July holiday.
And I think everybody wants smaller government, unless, of course, it means reducing the size of their favorite department.
But not smaller, efficient. And what is efficient government? And what is government supposed to do, and services it's supposed to provide? And we have groups that believe government overreaches, and we have groups that believe government doesn't reach enough. But one thing I can say, in the basic principle, and throughout history, it's when you are depending on government, and you don't have the fortitude, or you can't do it yourself, when it needs to be done, if you can take care of yourself, you'll survive. If you're going to depend on government to take care of you, good luck, because the government can be there or cannot be there. But if you have the skills and you have the abilities to take care of yourself, then you have a proportionally positive chance to survive or move on. And that's, like I said, if you have to rely on the government, then you're under the government's thumb.
1-800-795-9565. We invite you to call in and talk about this. We're talking about the state budget, what's in it, what is not. And one of the things that we did hear talked about was a severance tax, which would have been wholly appropriate in Pennsylvania, but that the Republicans are not interested in that. And, of course, controlling the committees and the budgets, that means that is gone. And
how is it wholly appropriate?
Well, I think a severance tax is a good idea in Pennsylvania.
For what reason?
well, to help the budget. Maybe you could earmark some of it for education. I think a severance tax should be used for long-term environmental topics like a conservancy or almost like a foundation type topic where you set aside money that would come from a severance tax that would help future generations
but that's
to
being
recover.
done already.
There is some spending,
fees,
but not nearly enough. And
Well,
the impact fees won't help 7 generations out.
The,
I'm talking about
the
a long
industry. The energy industry is paying more in taxes than they would do in other states. In Pennsylvania, they pay more in taxes. So,
Right.
So, right, are you looking at the net result, or are you looking at? I mean, you're looking to tax them just to tax them.
Well, no, I'm looking to tax them because it's an extractive industry that leaves a footprint of damage, and future generations are not going to have the kind of funds to go back to that we can generate from the industry today. But we're talking about the state budget. If you and I want to go back and forth on the severance tax, we can do that again. But really, I think the state budget does not have a severance tax. It isn't part of the discussion any further. Republicans aren't interested in it, and they control the committees and the budget. So even though there was talk as the budget deficit grew that maybe it would be necessary, and I think even Tom Corbett said in some of his remarks that he would have to look at the concept of what the money would be used for, and I think some of it would be used for education, which you'd love to see eventually state funding increase to help districts so they wouldn't have to raise taxes. Of course, as Fred Keller says, it's incumbent upon school boards to spend responsibly, but I think at some point if some revenue would come from a severance tax, that could be used to help backfill that. If some revenue could come from maybe a slight increase in sales tax, and particularly one that would sunset after the pension crisis passed. One of the things, if you want to say the Republicans in Harrisburg have done something good, they've started the process, I think responsibly, of setting us up for the future for this pension crisis to pass. Within a decade, the lump gulp of all these high pensions will start to pass. And if you can increase sales tax just to compensate for what should have been done years ago.
Well, are you saying we don't spend enough in Pennsylvania on education?
I don't think we do. I don't think Harrisburg provides enough funding for education in Pennsylvania.
But in what way? I mean,
in dollars.
We're seeing increases in spending in K through 12.
Right, but I think they should fund education adequately. I know they spend it more each year. That Fred
throwing money at the education is not going to improve education.
So there's no way to spend responsibly?
Well, they're not. Are they spending responsibly now? I mean, Pennsylvania. How much do you think Pennsylvania spends right now on education?
Well, I'm sure it's more than the year before, and it's going to be more next year. But the fact of the matter is, districts still have to raise taxes each year so that they can progress and keep up.
But why?
Well, because pensions.
Yeah, but don't you think the district should be responsible and understand how to run a 26, 28, 38, 45 billion-dollar business, million-dollar business in taxes when they look at, just as the state should be? I mean, when you say we're not spending enough on education, well, what aren't we spending enough on? If you look at the education dollars being spent and where they go to, disproportionately, if you say it, you're talking large proportions go to pensions and salaries of administrators and that. How much does actually go down to the student? I mean, Pennsylvania spends $13,000, I think 461, it's somewhere in that range, per student in Pennsylvania. That's 12th in the nation. They have an 82% rate for graduation. So where aren't the dollars being spent for education?
Well, I think that there are still districts that are struggling, and really this is going on the backs of property tax owners around here. If Harrisburg doesn't adequately fund education, the districts have to raise it locally. Now, you and Fred Keller think that school boards are irresponsible, raising taxes and negotiating this.
No, I didn't say irresponsible. I just said the school districts
well, if they're not doing their job, what do you call it then?
Well, school boards themselves are look at the administration and look at the school boards and look at how the funding's done.
Well, in what word would describe what school boards do when they overspend?
I believe most school boards are unfortunately it's too much for them to handle.
Wait.
It is too much for them to handle running these million-dollar businesses at what the funded and unfunded mandates are, and school boards have a very tough task. And also, if you see how expenses of schools have gotten out of control, You see it in the cost, in their overhead costs, and that takes less dollars into the pupils.
So, in a word, what's wrong with school boards?
Personally, I think school boards have a very tough time of understanding the
in one word.
business.
You're responsible.
They're overwhelmed.
Ah, okay. Very well. All right. Overwhelmed school boards is the topic of our precise conversation. We're talking about the fact that districts need more funding from Harrisburg for education, and Ben shakes his head no. I shake my head yes.
They keep giving them money. It's not going to change the outcome.
They'll just spend it for education. Next thing you
know.
know.
No, they're not spending it for education, Mark. They're spending it on overhead, capital expenses, and how much goes to the student. And that's
so,
the breakdown.
Let's see, Danville and Line Mountain school districts are taking appropriate action as they go through strikes?
Well, I think they're trying to rein in their expenses and their overhead costs, and you look at its disproportionate amount of overhead, and some of these school boards have taken up what other school boards have left them. You have administrations, you have situations where, where are the dollars being spent efficiently and where aren't they being spent?
All right, we're trying to see if school districts should be funded in an increased fashion from Harrisburg or not.
But they are. This year's budget has an increased funding for
funded adequately, and not just increased, but adequately. 1-800-795-9565. What is adequate funding from Harrisburg? I'd love to hear the public's view on this. Give us a buzz, 1-800-795-9565. You can email us at onthemark@wkok.com. Our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Here's something to think about. How do you know if your insurance is the right price? Have you ever had your insurance reviewed? Do you remember when it was reviewed? And are you getting all the discounts you deserve? Let Groninger Insurance Agency give you a free, no-obligation second opinion on your auto, home, or business insurance. Give the Groninger Insurance Agency a call today at 570-473-8107. They're proud to represent the Erie Insurance Group. It's true, if you're not insured by Groninger Insurance, you're probably paying too much.
If there were an 83% chance of rain, you'd probably grab an umbrella. So if there was an 83% chance you'd have a problem with one of your vehicle's tires, what would you do?
Let the experts at your Ford dealer inspect your tires. You'll get up to $130 in mail-in rebates on select tires when you use the Ford Service credit card. Subject to credit approval. Rebate by prepaid debit card. Other tire manufacturer rebate or offer cannot be combined with Ford Service credit card rebate or offer. Data from Rubber Manufacturers Association. See your participating Ford dealer for details through 8/31/14.
Never know how! When your battery goes out on you, it's like a sucker punch to the gut. But now at Napa, when you buy a new battery, alternator, or starter, you get a Visa rebate card by mail for up to $25. And a Visa rebate card for up to $25 with a new battery? Well, that's like a sucker punch to the gut, but from a really pretty girl. Conquer the job with Napa Know-How. At participating Napa Auto Parts stores. Offer expires 7/31/14.
News and interviews from your community every morning on WKOK Sunrise.
Just learning some different things to eat before and after exercise, kind of boost your energy level.
I like just getting out there and running. I just really like running.
So a person who has a disability, is in a wheelchair, we have a good number of people that we are getting to work every day.
News, sports, AccuWeather, and more every morning on WKOK Sunrise on News Radio 1070 WKOK and WKOK.com.
Yeah, that's what they're saying in the Danville School District. It's not working out We've already had 1 week of strike, or maybe 2 weeks of strikes, and they're going to start out the year with more strikes in the Danville School District. Line Mountain, the next district.
Is that a definite? Because I've heard rumors.
Oh, no, that's not a definite. No, that was just talked about at the conclusion of the strike this past spring. Let's see. Drew Bingaman, on the subject of school spending, sent a note to the Lenape Solar email in basket saying the Commonwealth Foundation has an informational article on school spending. 1, state spending on public education is the highest level ever. 2, the cuts in the 2011-2012 budget for education came from the temporary stimulus funds. 3, teachers, unions, and others are using selective numbers to show cuts in school funding. 4, and that also means that the PSEA isn't counting pension payments for teachers and education funding. 5, stimulus funds began affecting education funding a year earlier than the PSSA claims. And they go on with a couple of more points there. Yeah, give us your thoughts, Drew. We'd love to hear what you personally have to say. Roberta, thanks for checking in on our school funding. I say that Harrisburg should fund education adequately, which they don't. And Ben very appropriately says boards are overwhelmed and couldn't handle it even if they had the money. So, Roberta, you're on the mark.
Another thing you're saying about school boards, I don't know what they think what the property tax person that pays the taxes, what they think we are. Now, I received one tax bill, which was $450-some in April. Now, I received another one 2 weeks ago, which was $1,470-some. Now, don't they want property people to own their own property or what, I mean, I think they're going a little bit overboard with the school business. They should cut back on their pensions and, leave them pay their insurance. What do they think us taxpayers are?
A pincushion comes to mind, a bottomless pit.
That's about it, but I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, I'm on a fixed income, and that takes me, if I couldn't pay it in payments, I wouldn't be able to afford to pay it. And how many other people are in the same shoes as I am? When you're in a fixed income, you only get so much money, and that's it.
Well, but they took a step in '06 when Act 1 was voted in, and it limits the authority of school boards to raise property taxes without voter consent. I believe there's a level they can raise, and if they go above that level, then it has to go to the voters for voters' consent. So Act 1 in 2006 did try to address that. But I would say you ask what people think the property owners are, and cash cow comes to mind. They can just keep going back to it and going back. And remember, you look at when industries and businesses leave, the people around here that are anti-business. It's hard to be pro-jobs and anti-business. When businesses leave and tax revenues leave, it affects a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
Businesses leave because of high taxes, you're saying, is the connection?
No. If businesses leave, then that revenue base goes out. You have non-profit organizations that don't pay taxes or pay partial taxes here and there. So if your tax base is shrinking, your costs are increasing, where and when do you look at efficiencies? And I think some school boards have tried when they close down schools and they look at where can they get efficiencies, but it's an overwhelming scenario to sit on a school board at 27, 28, 32 million dollars and make some of these decisions. And also then there's the social aspect. You want to be fair, you try to be fair, you try to be equitable, looking at how a school should operate. But schools are not small, schools are big businesses.
Oh, they are big business, but just take like the superintendents. Look how much money they get. They get paid a whole lot more than what, as far as I'm concerned, they earned. And this one has an assistant, and that one has an assistant. Now, where do they think all that money comes from?
That's part of the overhead.
Comes from you, Roberta.
I know, in some areas, all those homes that they're tearing down, now that's less tax money than the Shikellamy School District also.
Well, the businesses pay taxes if they take over those properties.
Well, yeah, but a lot of them, the city's just tearing them down, and some of them I don't think they're really that bad.
They don't go in the public role, though.
Yeah, but if they're tearing them down to sell them back, they're trying to get them back into the tax base.
Yeah, it's a cycle. It might be a 10-year cycle or a 5-year cycle, or really a 2-year.
But at least they're trying. At least they're proactive in trying to do something to get things.
Thank you very much, Roberta. Cindy, thank you so much for waiting. Thanks for calling earlier. We're talking about education funding right now, particularly with the backdrop of the state budget negotiations.
Well, we can generate hundreds of millions of dollars for our classrooms without raising taxes at all. But it takes courage from the community and courage from the school board. And what we need to do is start consolidating school districts. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's a school district in Potter County.
Oh, come on, Cindy, that's crazy talk.
232 children, kindergarten through 12th grade, with the full complement of administration. This is madness. It's
and
just
principals.
madness.
Yeah.
And there are hundreds of school districts with enrollment, 1,500 kids in the whole school district and less, who have a superintendent, an assistant superintendent, a director of curriculum, an athletic director, a food service director, a director of transportation, a business manager. Now, you know, this is absurd. It's a onerous overhead. Look, I mean, if you want a case in point, and this isn't just about consolidation, but more about unbelievable spending. There's Susquehanna Township down in the Harrisburg area, and that school district is on fire. They can't have enough problems. But here they are with an education ranking just above 400th in the state, and they are paying a very generous salary to a public relations person. Her salary could put 2 teachers in classrooms. And that's a school board decision. That's, you know, pure and simple. The school board allows that kind of stuff to go on. There are public relations employees in many school districts in the Commonwealth. Why? Why are we paying these people $80, $90, $100,000 a year when we could put that money in a classroom? So from my perspective, the problem is, one, that we can't afford 500 school districts anymore. And by the way, there are 6 counties in the state that are just one school district. So this is not some unheard of bit of madness. And 2, where there are school districts, there needs to be at the very least sharing of some of this administrative overhead. And to Rendell's credit, he tried to get them to do it, but of course they pretty much, except for 50 of them, turned their backs on him and refused to do it.
All right, so this education funding process, Ben made a remark, and I have to kind of agree with it because of the complexity of this issue we're talking about, that school boards are overwhelmed, that maybe we need a different model for this sort of consolidated school district that you're talking about. Can school boards adequately handle this incredible process anymore?
I think they can. I know that there are people at the state level arguing for the state to take over the funding of the school districts, and in what causes the school board association, the school board members, and the administrations of the individual districts agita is they know that once the state takes over, they won't make those spending decisions anymore. And as one of my fellow school board members once explained to me, that's the fun part, which I could not agree less. I couldn't disagree with that perspective more. Every time I voted, and I admit 3 times I voted to raise people's taxes, I was sick in my gut knowing there were people who cannot afford to do this. They simply cannot. And I'm asking myself, does plastic grass take precedence over heart medication? Does a fancy new football facility take precedence over people's ability to feed their children? And for me, the answer is just so simple. The answer is no. But against every school board, there are groups in the community who have a different picture, who are only interested in getting what they want without considering the social consequences of that. That's how I see it.
All right. Thank you very much, Cindy. Very much appreciated. Cindy is a former school board member of Selinsgrove, talking about school district priorities that are out of whack, supporting arts and athletics and extracurriculars in such a great way that taxes have to go up. And in a lot of school districts now, as Ben mentioned, they can only go up the rate of inflation on their real estate taxes. They just start with that, and then they go backwards and make changes where they don't even consider the idea of not having a tax increase. That used to be the case. One district passed a budget without a tax increase around here, Midwest, I think it was. But other districts do not have that luxury. Of course, Midwest has the most debt, so they probably have the most planned budget as they go into the years ahead and stay ahead on their debt. Danville School District not able to pass a budget that would, not able to come to agreement with teachers on how much they should be paid. Line Mountain is in the same boat, though they've had no strike at Line Mountain, but teachers have been teaching for years without a contract. Should Harrisburg fund education adequately or not? And should school districts be forced to maybe give up some of that school board control? School boards are overwhelmed is the word that is the operative key. We'd love your opinion on this. 1-800-795-9565. Call us now. Are school boards overwhelmed? The answer would have to be, everybody would have to say yes in some fashion, but to what extent? 1-800-795-9565. You can email us at onthemark@wkok.com.
It's time to think about how to promote your business, to brand your business as a quality establishment customers trust. How do you set yourself apart from the crowd?
Hi, this is Erica Shames, publisher of Susquehanna Life magazine. 20 years ago, I started the magazine to educate people about why life here is so unique and to create a high-quality advertising venue for your business or organization. The old adage, you are the company you keep, holds true. When you think about where to advertise, think Susquehanna Life magazine, and here's why. Your ad in Susquehanna Life is seen by more than 45,000 people regionally. Our reader surveys tell us 77% of those readers buy from our advertisers. Most people keep their copies of Susquehanna Life indefinitely. Bottom line, it makes sense to advertise in an upscale magazine with the experience and integrity to safeguard and build your brand. Advertise in Susquehanna Life magazine. Call 1-800-232-1670 for more information.
If there were an 83% chance of rain, you'd probably grab an umbrella. So if there was an 83% chance you'd have a problem with one of your vehicle's tires, what would you do?
Let the experts at your Ford dealer inspect your tires. You'll get up to $130 in mail-in rebates on select tires when you use the Ford Service credit card. Subject to credit approval. Rebate by prepaid debit card. Other tire manufacturer rebate or offer cannot be combined with Ford Service credit card rebate or offer. Data from Rubber Manufacturers Association. See your participating Ford dealer for details through 8/31/14.
Never know how! When your battery goes out on you, it's like a sucker punch to the gut. But now at Napa, when you buy a new battery, alternator, or starter, you get a Visa rebate card by mail for up to $25. And a Visa rebate card for up to $25 with a new battery? Well, that's like a sucker punch to the gut, but from a really pretty girl. Conquer the job with Napa Know-How. At participating Napa Auto Parts stores. Offer expires 7/31/14.
These past few years have been tough on all of us. You may have even given up on your dream of owning your own home. But don't give up just yet. We're PHFA. We help people realize their dreams of owning their own home with features like competitive interest rates, down payment and closing cost assistance, and even free home ownership counseling. PHFA can make your dream of home ownership finally come true.
Learn more at phfa.org or call 1-800-822-1174.
I'm Brian Hudson, and we're PHFA. Welcome home.
Go Hunt PA to enjoy the outdoors, to be with family and friends, or to put food on the table. Whatever the reason, the Pennsylvania Game Commission invites you to Go Hunt PA. Log on to pgc.state.pa.us to find information on wildlife, hunting, licensing, and much more. While you're there, subscribe to their email service to get all the latest news, like reminding hunters that 2014-2015 Pennsylvania hunting licenses are on sale now. Check the Game Commission's website for details. Go Hunt PA. Visit pgc.state.pa.us.
Penn State football players arrive this weekend for summer session. Yes, the freshmen are finally on campus. We'll talk about Penn State football all next week right here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Welcome back to the KOK Live Telephone Talk Show. It is entitled On the Mark. I am Mark Lawrence, hosting the show in a very, very below average fashion, but we're glad that you're putting up with it. Across from me,
some more credit.
Thank you. Well, I invited Ben Reichley to join me.
It's very average, Mark. Don't put yourself down. It is very average.
Very average. All right.
We're talking about education. Are we on the race to the bottom as co-host here?
It's the race to the middle. So welcome aboard. Ben Reichley is enjoying the race, although excelling in trying to raise up the the level of rhetoric here and dialogue and discourse and appropriate conversation.
But if we're going to talk average, though, you know what average is?
It's what, the middle, right?
Average is worst of the best and best of the worst.
Okay, all right, well, that's true.
So we're trying to be that.
Kevin's webcam is up and running. He's made it work flawlessly. A great audio signal, great video signal, and it's all good, and it's only going to get better. So the webcam is there. Producer is Kevin Herr, and he has so many awards. He actually had to put some in a rented container and launch it into space so that there'd be some additional...
No, didn't he rent a container, and 20 years from now they're going to have storage wars? They're going to open up the container. Someone's going to spend big bucks for
somebody will have spent $1,400 for plastic PAB awards. They'll
What's
open it up.
Out in the lobby here? Is that
the pointy
area,
ones are PAB. Yeah.
Are they going to make the area they're cutting out? Is that going to be for a bust of Kevin's head so people can touch it on the way back?
I don't know what they're doing out there.
That's awesome
I think
too.
They're trying to find the dead mouse.
And then they're going to put a little saying above it says "Work like a champion" as you touch Kevin's head.
Oh, yeah, everybody who comes in can do that. Let's see. Sponsors, Groninger Insurance, Lenape Solar, and Sunbury Motor Company. Thank you so much for patiently waiting through frivolity. Dave, you are on the mark.
Hey, why don't you guys keep your small talk before the program instead of wasting all of our time that we want to listen to it?
Done.
Why don't you keep your small talk before the program?
All right, we'll do that.
My point was, I agree with Ben. We're spending too much on education. How about the people that have 5 kids that their income is a six-figure? Why don't they pay more? I had a guy tell me that he got back X amount of bucks because he had a tax credit, so that means he paid no income tax for 5 children. Now, how does that fare to me, a person here with only income is Social Security and that? How does that affect me? I never sent any kids to school, but I'm saying, why don't they pay more instead of the poor guy that's trying to keep his house from going to for the tax block?
Well, I think districts in Pennsylvania, they see education funding is something the whole community should support, even though it only affects, or most directly affects parents. They see everybody has a stake in education. Everybody has a stake in making sure that people grow up in the community, and those who decide to stay in the community, or those
I know that. You don't have to do all of this all over again. Everybody knows that. I'm talking about what it's costing me and these other people that are single, trying to pay for my pills, and still every time they say, well, we still have to get more money. How about the person that's sending the kids to school? They rent. I own. So they get out from underneath this, and they don't pay any tax because they rent. How about the people that sending kids to school? Let them pay, like Kevin.
Well, their landlord pays property taxes, and big time, too.
And I do. I'm a taxpayer.
I hope so.
Thanks for noticing.
I hope so. I just threw that out there because I want to dig you, like you dig us when we try to call in. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to do? You shouldn't ask me that. It's an open conversation. You shouldn't ask me what I want to talk about.
Well, if it's something that's not going to make any sense, I'm not going to embarrass you on the radio.
Who are you to say what makes sense?
He's called the producer.
It's called the producer.
No. It's an open program,
okay.
just like McGranahan. That's what I like about him. It's an open program. Don't ask me what I'm going to talk about because I might just pick up something else. But because you
all right, well,
try to ask us what we want to talk about. That's unconstitutional.
That's unconstitutional. I agree with you. I see you. I agree with that,
I have to look at that. I have to look that one up. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Dave. More wisdom, and very, very, very much appreciated. And thanks for listening, even though he agrees with me that
what entertains Dave, by the way? That's what I want to know.
Way below average.
Why don't you ask him, Kevin, when he calls in?
I'm not allowed to ask him anything now.
You can ask him that. You just can't ask him what's he going to talk about. Paul, thanks for checking in. You're on the mark.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to make a correction. He said that he owns. That is not true. You pay rent as long as you pay your taxes. You have the right to live where you are.
Oh, yeah, Paul, you're right. Do you really own your land? No, you lease it back from your local, state, and federal government, depending on which state you live in. But, yeah, we don't think we own our land. We can do certain things with it. But however, you really lease it back from a government entity.
Okay, well, what I wanted to do is I wanted to throw a question out to you people. and see what you think. In 1929, when the Great Depression hit, a lot of people lost their homes because they could not pay. So the banks ended up foreclosing. They ended up with more houses, and they couldn't sell them because nobody had the money to buy them. So now here is a situation where you have people that cannot afford the taxes. So what is the district going to do if they have to repossess those homes and sell them for the taxes, and they can't find any buyers like the banks did in 1929?
I would say it's a little different scenario. There's plenty of buyers at the right price. It just depends on if the school district, county, city can get X amount of dollars back, what percentage back on the taxes that are owed.
I don't think so, Ben, because for the simple reason that the majority of people, when they relocate, the one thing that they look for is the economic value that they're going to receive. I worked in Atlanta, Georgia for about 3 months, and I found out that their tax structure down there was very, very small, and they were much more convenient on how they spent their tax money. So if I was going to relocate, I would look for a place that had an economic growth, that had lower taxes than where I came from, and I would not want to invest into a community where I have to pay more taxes with the fear of losing what I want to the increase of taxes. If you can explain, or if anybody can explain, the reason why they spend so much money and what the practicality is of it, then I say, okay, we have some merit.
Okay, but Paul, who is we're saying they? Are you talking about school districts?
I'm
or are you talking about government?
School districts.
Okay.
Ben, let me. Well, first of all, before I get emotionally involved in this, and that is Northumberland was a small district, and it had a small amount of people that were enrolled. We were one of 7 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania at that time that was operating in the black. We had a surplus of money. We had an abundance of people that wanted to move into the area, and then all of a sudden we were forced into a merger. So we went from operating in the black to a metropolitan school district and now operate in the red. So I'm saying that what you should do is go back to the small school districts and let the small communities support their schools.
But Paul, I would say this, and I know we had a caller earlier talking about putting school districts together, and there is some merit to that, but there's also logistics and some situations. But if you look at the structure, the setup of Northumberland High School in '52, and you look at the percentages and the dollars that went to students and the dollars that went to expenses as far as teacher salaries, administration salaries, you had a whole different model set up, and that's survivable. You didn't have the unfunded mandates from the state and federal governments. You didn't have curricular directors, and you didn't have multiple. You didn't have that vast, the business of education.
Have a school board that would want to tear down school buildings and build new ones when they had the money on hand to more or less fix the old ones up.
Well, and there's something I will say this. I think the business of education is overwhelming school boards right now, and there's a number of, remember, they are not paid, school boards, people that are serving on these, so they're good intentions, but when people get in there, it's I will say, yeah, they get blindsided by this. And if you get on the school board with an agenda, you hope your agenda is a very positive to move your district forward, your schools forward. But if you look at the business model of Northumberland High School, and you look at the expenses back then, and what happened is they got lost in a political battle with Sunbury, and Sunbury had the power to bring them in. And if Sunbury was running a deficit, they could bring Northumberland in and try to get that to be a positive. But the business of education, and we're seeing it in higher education now, and of course now we're seeing it in the K through 12 education. The business of education is big money, and those people who are making the big money, they're not going to give it up without a fight.
All right, I have the consolidation plan in front of me. We're going to cut the number of school districts in Pennsylvania in half. We're going to go from 500 superintendents to 250 as soon as we return from a quick break. But we invite your input on this. What should we do with education? Pennsylvania does not adequately fund education. School districts need to consolidate, and what can be done, and maybe preserve the most important thing that we do in our schools today, and that's play football. Some way to preserve the football rivalries.
I thought band was more important. But how, your term, we're not funding education adequately.
You don't like that. Okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
All right, whatever appropriate wording would work, whatever needs to be done, let's do it. 1-800-795-9565 is sponsored by Groninger Insurance. Lenape Solar, email in basket open. Our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
This is Justin Charles from Lenape Solar. Did you know we use exclusive manufacturing partners? Our solar modules are made with American components in an American factory by an American company in Milwaukee. Our lighting fixtures are made less than 3 hours away in Philadelphia. Even our fluorescent lamps are made here in the U.S., as are our solar racking systems. We're dedicated not just to quality, but our local economy. Find out more by calling 286-1496, online at lenapesolar.com, or drop by our showroom at 140 South 2nd Street, Sunbury, and see these products in person.
News and interviews from your community every morning on WKOK Sunrise.
Our idea for Greenway is 500 miles of interconnected parks, trails, and river towns.
We all want to be watching our children. It's so important to do, but unfortunately our attention gets drawn in other areas. But active supervision, eyes on the child, is so important.
News, sports, AccuWeather, and more every morning on WKOK Sunrise on News Radio 1070 WKOK and WKOK.com.
I'm still working on this. The district consolidations are not ready. I'm stuck in Lycoming County. We're talking about what can we do with education. We've got to do something. We can't just keep raising property taxes on retirees. Districts are overwhelmed. School boards are having to pay teachers appropriate salaries in their minds, and so that's helping to drive up the cost, plus facilities. Everything else costs more. What can we do? 1-800-795-9565. As Kevin says, what can we do to fix it? 1-800-795-9565. Here's my proposed mergers. Juniata and Mifflin County. It's going to make a big school district, but they don't need two superintendents there. Hey, don't laugh. Upper Dauphin and Harrisburg, Shamokin and Mount Carmel, Bloomsburg and Southern, Central, Benton, and Berwick could combine into one. That's a triple into one.
Wait. Central, Benton, and Berwick you're going to put into one?
One school district, yep.
That's enormous.
Right, Shikellamy, Danville.
Wait, time out. Do you know the square mileage you're talking about there?
Mark is
less than Juniata School District, less than Mifflin County School District, so obviously...
Yeah, but the per capita number of people in...
is the same.
It is?
Yes, it's the same.
Really?
Kevin, Mark is proposing light rail from all these communities into one central high school.
You're going to have to fly kids in.
What's going to be the Jetsons?
Let me finish the list here.
All right, go
Mifflinburg, Lewisburg, Midwest, Selinsgrove, Shikellamy, Danville, Muncie, East Lycoming, Montoursville, Loyalsock, Jersey Shore, Williamsport, and South Williamsport gets to stay their own tiny district. So
why not merge Jersey Shore and South Williamsport?
They might merge with Montgomery. I forgot about
Montgomery.
Hey, you know what? Until you get started, you don't know. And then now you have something started.
And these would be perfect matches. Shikellamy and Danville would be a perfect match. And it would raise up Shikellamy. I mean, there'd be so many benefits. Plus, they could say, okay, if you could still say that you could hold on to the old line so that there'd still be a football rivalry, since really football is the most important thing that happens in school.
So it's going to be the Shikellamy Iron Braves?
Well, no, they would retain their identity. All right, let's see. 2 emails. One.
Well, so you're saying, wait, hold on. I want to go back to this because I'm trying. This is intriguing to me, and I think you're onto something. I just don't think you're quite there.
Okay.
You're saying you're creating a district for this particular example out of Shikellamy and Danville.
Right.
But they're going to have separate schools.
Oh, no, yeah, they would. Well, you'd have to have separate schools, although eventually you could consolidate a building.
I guess
the point you're making is you could have these separate districts, but you want to take the administration staff and merge them.
Right,
and
same superintendent.
Yeah, and that's viable and that's understandable, and that probably could happen.
How well, though, does that work in the Philadelphia area where they do that sort of thing?
Well, that's already
Philadelphia is its own.
That's another topic.
Problem of education, and with the dollars spent in Philadelphia, it's a shame. And here's an interesting point, Kevin. You have the teachers' unions. Okay, they represent the teachers, and most support staff can be unionized or not. But in Philadelphia, the administrators that are not unionized in I think maybe all areas of Pennsylvania except Philadelphia, the administrators are unionized, and you know who represents them? The Teamsters. So in the Philadelphia School District, you have the teachers union, you have support staff that might be unionized or not, then you have the administrators who are unionized under the Teamsters.
All right. Oops, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, where does Bloomsburg in the Martopia School District?
They're going to merge with Southern. I forgot to say
that. Oh, okay. You may have said that. I just missed it.
Well,
let's see. You have Central, Benton, and Berwick. With the exception of Millville, you've got the entire north Columbia County over Interstate 80.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll take Benton out. We'll put Millville in with
Wouldn't Bloomsburg and Central Columbia be more of a natural merger?
That's actually been discussed for 20 years.
No, but Berwick needs them. It would help raise up Berwick. So we're not just saving costs
here.
We're
team having problems?
We're trying to match up of
academic
skills here. So the academics of Central would help Berwick. The academics of Southern would help Bloomsburg. Danville would help Shikelamy's academics. Shamokin and Mount Carmel, they're going to need tutoring. Mifflinburg and Lewisburg, they're both good. Mifflinburg, Midwest, and Selinsgrove are both good. Juniata, Mifflin, they're already getting bussed all over. You might as well make it a bigger
Can you
district.
bring Mount Carmel and Shamokin together?
Yes. Muncie and East Lycoming, they're both good. Montoursville and Loyalsock, they're both sharp. Williamsport and South Williamsport's going to help.
I'll tell you what, Mount Carmel, Shamokin, that's going to take a lot of Coney dogs and a lot of Matucci's Pizza to make that work.
One of our listeners says Ben is correct. Should we just say, should I stop there, or do you want me to read the rest? No. Ben is correct. Throwing more money at education only enhances the problem. Only better management or a new system would correct the problem.
Well, I'm not saying correctness. It's the point that I think we have to look at better management and better systems, and I would say a blue panel, it's a blue ribbon panel of educators with. But Mark, the point about the education, what is the finished product? And businesses need to hire the finished product or be able to take that and move them within their organization to a viable, skilled product that, we're all part of a bigger system. So when you look at what's the end result of our education, we seem not to be making it. And we can be better at this, but is there a better way to do it? I think that's up for discussion.
One of my friends sends me a note. Thanks for forgetting about us in Watsontown, and if you think we're merging with Montgomery, you can forget it.
No, Milton, right? Warrior Run Milton?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. That'd be perfect.
He's real happy now.
And Montgomery. Yeah, I don't think that's going to sue that. I'm not going to be allowed in the hunting cabin now. Thank you, Kevin. Greatest engineer the entire universe has ever known. He's the only person that has satellite awards. This is WKOK Sunbury.